Greetings, fellow seeker of slumber. In tonight's story, we will unravel the full, profound history of Gandalf the Grey. From his ethereal beginnings to his pivotal role in saving Middle-earth, prepare to delve into the depths of his wisdom, power, and enduring legacy. Before we begin, let me know where you're tuning in from and whether the sun has set for you. It's always wonderful to see where our fellow dreamers reside. Now, with the lights low and your mind at ease, let's gently wander into our story. Picture this: you are not a being of flesh. You have no eyes, no ears, no hands. You are a disembodied intellect, a spirit of pure thought named Olórin. Your existence is a symphony of abstract concepts. You spend your eons drifting through the gardens of Olórin, not the forest in Middle-earth, but the pristine Valinorian domain of the Vala Urmo, the master of visions and dreams. Here you don't see beauty, you are the thought of it. You don't feel peace, you are a constituent part of its very essence. Your purpose, if you can call it that, is to inspire. You whisper ideas into the minds of the elves, fair visions and promptings of wisdom, unseen and uncredited. It's a quiet, cerebral existence, without ambition or portfolio. Then comes the summons, a shift in the cosmic frequency. You are called before the Council of the Valar, the great powers who shape the world. The air, for want of a better term, grows heavy with purpose. The Lord of the Valar, Maiar, whose purview is the sky and the winds, has a proposal. It's less of a proposal and more of a mandate, a project plan for the unenlightened masses of a continent known as Middle-earth. The primary agenda item, the Sauron problem. Sauron, a fellow Maiar, but one who took a hard turn into cosmic evil, is consolidating power. The Valar, having learned from a previous intervention that was so cataclysmic it reshaped continents, have decided on a new strategy, a lighter touch. They will not send an army, they will not send a Valar, they will send emissaries, an order of counselors, the Istari, tasked with uniting and inspiring the free peoples to resist Sauron, but forbidden from matching his power with their own or dominating the wills of others. They are to be guides, not generals, mentors, not messiahs. They are to be cloaked in the frail bodies of old men, a constant, humbling reminder of their limitations. This is where the grim reality of your situation becomes clear. This isn't an honor. It's a high-risk, low-reward deployment to a failing state. Mand asks for volunteers. Kurumo, a Maiar of Ald the Smith, steps forward. He will become Saruman. LoTR and Palando, two others, also agree. Then Mand looks at you. He wishes you to go as the third, a visceral wave of pure refusal. An emotion you haven't processed in millennia surges through your consciousness. You state, for the record, that you are too weak for such a task. More than that, you admit you are afraid of Sauron. You know him. You are of the same order of being, and you are intimately aware of the sheer, dominating power of his will. To face him is not a challenge, it is an existential threat. Manogda's response is the cosmic equivalent of a manager telling you your greatest weakness is actually your greatest strength. He states that your fear is precisely why you must go. The logic is brutal. Someone arrogant and hungry would be too easily corrupted. Your self-doubt is a feature, not a bug. It is your primary qualification for a job you desperately want to refuse. This is not a discussion, it's a command. The lore coda, this moment, this forced volunteering, is one of the most critical junctures in the history of the Third Age. The Valar's decision to send the Istari was their final, indirect intervention in the war against Sauron. Had Olórin's refusal been accepted, the linchpin of the entire strategy would have been absent. His fear, and his subsequent acceptance of the mission despite it, defined the very nature of his work in Middle-earth. It ensured that the being who would become Gandalf would operate not from a place of pride or power, like Saruman, but from a place of profound empathy and caution, a perspective forged in the crucible of cosmic dread. The command has been given. There is no appeal. What comes next is not a journey, but a compression. A violent, metaphysical crunch. Your boundless, formless consciousness is seized, pulled, and funneled into a singularity of flesh. Imagine being the sky, then being forced into a jar of clay. The pressure is absolute. The first shock is the beat, a crude, wet thumping in a cage of bone. It is a heart. It is your heart. The second shock is air, a desperate, rasping gasp that fills lungs you did not ask for. It burns. The universe of pure thought you inhabited is gone, replaced by the suffocating immediacy of biology. You have weight. You have bones that ache. You have skin that itches. For the first time in your eternal existence, you are profoundly uncomfortable. Your cosmic awareness, once stretching across the timeless halls, is now crammed into a skull. It can barely see past a curtain of coarse, grey hair. This is the core of the Valar's plan, a masterpiece of strategic humbling. You and the others are not just being disguised as old men. You are being fundamentally re-engineered to experience the world through the dull, flawed lens of mortality. This physical form is not a vehicle. It is a prison. Its purpose is to force empathy, to make you feel the wariness of the world, to understand the frailty of the races you are meant to guide, to ensure you cannot become a divine tyrant because you are too busy dealing with arthritis. You are now subject to their limitations. Hunger, thirst, exhaustion, pain, these are now your daily tutors. And then comes the cruelest part of the process, the memory wipe. It's not clean. It's a messy, corrupting overwrite. Your knowledge of Valinor, of your true nature as a Maiar, of the faces of the Valar themselves, is not erased. It is veiled. It is pushed deep down, beneath layers of mortal confusion, until it feels less like a memory and more like a half-forgotten dream you had ages ago. You can remember you have a mission, but the specific parameters are fuzzy. You know your enemy's name, but the full weight of his power is a vague, intellectual dread rather than a precise calculation. Welcome to your new reality. You are a divine agent running on corrupted, legacy software. Let's just say your celestial knowledge base is now read-only, and most of the files are fragmented. You must rediscover your own wisdom, piece by piece, through long, hard centuries of study and experience on a world that is actively trying to kill you. The brilliance of this handicap is that it makes you vulnerable. Saruman, your superior, will grow to resent this limitation, seeking to overcome it with worldly power, and thus falling into the very trap it was designed to create. Your job is not to overcome this frail form. It is to endure it. You must learn to use the tools of the world, to rely on the knowledge and courage of mortals, because your own divine playbook has been deliberately taken from you. The Lore Coda, the embodiment of the Istari, is the single greatest gamble the Valar take in the Third Age. By forcing their agents into mortal flesh, they expose them to the corrupting influences of the world, to pride and despair. It was a test. Saruman's eventual fall from grace is the ultimate proof of the risk, a catastrophic failure of one of their chosen agents. But Gandalf's journey, his suffering and his eventual triumph through his mortal limitations, is the ultimate validation of the strategy. It proved that true wisdom was not a memory of divine power, but a lesson learned through the visceral, painful experience of living within the world you are trying to save. You are decanted onto a dock. The world assaults you. The first coherent thought is of the smell, salt, wet wood, and the pungent reek of fish gut. It is a visceral shock after an eternity of pristine, conceptual reality. Cold wind whips off a grey sea, carrying a dampness that seeps into your new, aching bones. Your borrowed body shivers, not from a memory of fear, but from a simple, humiliating lack of warmth. Seabirds screech overhead, a chaotic noise that grates on a consciousness accustomed to silent harmony. This is Mithlond, the Grey Havens. Welcome to Middle-earth. It is loud, it is dirty, it is your problem now. You are not alone. Your colleagues have also arrived. Kurumo, now called Saruman, is every bit the leader, tall, stately, with a commanding voice. He speaks first and speaks longest, establishing his primacy. The others are there, shadows in the background. You are the last, the smallest. You lean heavily on a rough wooden staff, not as a wizardly affectation, but because your legs feel unsteady. You look like what you are, a tired old man who has had a very bad day. But someone is watching you, really watching. His name is J.R.R, the shipwright, an elf so ancient he has seen empires rise and crumble like sandcastles against the tide. He has a beard, a rarity among elves, a mark of his immense age. His eyes, however, are not old. They are sharp, and they do not see a frail old man. They see the veiled fire of a Maiar. They recognize the weight of the mission you carry. While Saruman is holding court, making pronouncements, J.R.R approaches you quietly, away from the others. He recognizes the truth of the situation. The official hierarchy is a fiction. The real work will not be done by the proudest, but by the most resilient. This is not a welcome reception. This is a clandestine operational handover. J.R.R speaks to you in low tones, his words cutting through your disorientation. He explains that he was the keeper of an artifact of great power. Naraya, the Ring of Fire, one of the 3 elven rings untouched by Sauron's influence. He presents it to you, a simple gold band holding a ruby that seems to smolder with an inner warmth. The ring's purpose is not to dominate or to provide martial might. Its function is to inspire, to enkindle hope and courage in others, to guard against the weariness and despair that Sauron uses as his primary weapons. It is, in essence, a force multiplier for the very mission you were sent to accomplish. Take this ring, J.R.R tells you, for your labors will be heavy, but it will support you in the weariness that you have taken upon yourself. For this is the Ring of Fire, and with it you may rekindle hearts to the valor of old in a world that grows chill. He is giving you a critical piece of unlicensed equipment, because he, a being of immense wisdom, has assessed the new management and decided the one who seems the weakest is, in fact, the best investment. He entrusts it to you in secret. A secret you must now keep from your new boss, Saruman, a being of immense pride who believes all such power is his by right. Congratulations. You have been on the continent for less than an hour, and you are already part of a conspiracy. The Lore Coder, J.R.R's gift, was an act of foresight with consequences that rippled through the entire age. By entrusting Naraya to Gandalf, J.R.R bypassed the official authority of Saruman and armed the mission's most vital agent with his most essential tool. This act planted the first seeds of Saruman's deep-seated jealousy and suspicion of Gandalf, a resentment that would fester for centuries before blooming into open betrayal. Without Naraya, Gandalf would have been just a wise counselor. With it, he became a walking bastion against despair, capable of inspiring kings and hobbits alike. J.R.R did not just give Gandalf a ring, he gave him the means of victory. You have your secret asset, you have your vague mission parameters. Now begins the work. And the work, for the next 2,000 years, is walking. Your existence becomes a monotonous, grinding pilgrimage with no clear destination. You walk until your staff is worn smooth by your hand and the soles of your feet are thick with the coluses of 100 kingdoms. You are Mithranda, the Grey Pilgrim, to the elves. A name of respect, but a title that still means homeless. You are Tharkon, staff, man, to the dwarves, a practical name for a practical tool. In the Forgotten South, you are Inknus, a name shrouded in rumor. You are a collection of aliases for a being with no home, no office, and no salary. The visceral reality of these centuries is not one of adventure. It is an accumulation of discomfort, the damp chill of 1,000 nights spent sleeping under the stars, the taste of poorly cooked food in 100 different inns, the constant low-grade suspicion of villagers who see not a wise wizard, but a vagrant, a nuisance, a meddler. Your life is a blur of changing seasons, of forests and mountains and plains, all seen from the lonely vantage of the road. While other powers build fortresses and hoard gold, your work is intangible. You collect whispers, you trade in rumors, you build alliances not with treaties, but with conversations, with favors, with the slow, patient earning of trust. Your contemporaries, especially the exceedingly proud Saruman, believe this is a profound waste of your time. He dedicates his efforts to the grand players of the world stage. He befriends lords, counsels kings, and delves into the deep lore of the elves, building a power base in the manner of a true political operator. You, however, develop a peculiar and professionally baffling interest in the halflings of the Shire. The hobbits. To Saruman, they are insignificant. A rustic, pipe-weed, adult populace with no strategic value. He cannot comprehend why you would spend decades, even centuries, frequenting their borders, enjoying their ale, and earning their trust. But you see what he does not. In your long and weary travels, you have seen the pride of men fail. You have seen the wisdom of elves fade as they retreat from the world. You have seen the greed of dwarves lead them to ruin. In the hobbits, you see something else entirely. A resilience disguised as complacency. A courage that is rooted not in ambition, but in the simple, fierce desire to protect their homes and their way of life. Saruman studies the mechanics of power. You study the nature of character. Your focus on the hobbits is not a quirky hobby. It is a strategic investment in an overlooked asset class. It is the core of your entire counter-Sauronic philosophy that the will to resist evil is not found in the mighty, but in the small. This is not a glorious crusade. It is a thankless, 2,000-year-long intelligence gathering operation. You are a divine agent reduced to the role of a freelance geopolitical analyst, wandering a failing world and writing reports that no one but you will ever read, piecing together the puzzle of a resurgent evil from the fragmented clues it leaves in its wake. Every dark rumor, every blighted patch of forest, every tale of a new shadow rising is a data point in your long, slow investigation. The lore coda. These long centuries of wandering were the defining period of Gandalf's mission. They were what allowed him to succeed where Saruman failed. Saruman isolated himself, believing power and knowledge were things to be hoarded in a tower. Gandalf, through his travels, learned that true power was a network, a web of trust woven through every race and class in Middle-earth. His deep understanding of the hearts of all the free peoples, especially his counter-intuitive faith in hobbits, was not a distraction from his mission. It was the absolute fulfillment of it. He was not just meddling, he was patiently building the foundations of the fellowship that would one day save the world. For centuries, your work has been a slow grind of intelligence gathering, but one data point becomes a trend. A shadow is growing in the south of Greenwood the Great, a forest so sick with this new presence it earns a new name, Mirkwood. The reports are consistent. Giant spiders, orcs operating far from their usual territory, and a creeping dread that poisons the land and the minds of those who live there. At the heart of it all stands a fortress, Dol Guldur, the Hill of Sorcery. The locals speak of a necromancer, a distasteful but strategically vague job title. You decide it's time for a personal site inspection. In the year 2063 of the Third Age, you go in. The air in Mirkwood is thick, heavy. It smells of decay and something else, something unnaturally cold. Light struggles to pierce the canopy, and the silence is a living thing pressing in on you. Dol Guldur itself is worse. The stone feels greasy to the touch, and the dread that permeates the forest is concentrated here into a palpable wave of malice. It is a place designed to amplify fear. You don't find the master of the house, but your presence, the intrusion of a being of your power, is enough. The shadow falters, it retreats. The necromancer flees, and a period of quiet descends. The wise call it the watchful peace. This is a public relations fiction. It is not peace. It is the enemy going quiet, rebuilding, and learning from your intrusion. For 400 years, things are relatively stable. Then, in 2460, the pest returns. The necromancer reoccupies Dol Guldur, and this time, the power is far greater. The poison spreads faster. The darkness is more aggressive. The problem you thought you had handled has come back, as all deeply rooted problems do, worse than before. You spend decades urging the White Council, the leadership group you technically belong to take action. They dither. Saruman, in particular, counsels patience, assuring everyone he is monitoring the situation. Let's just say his monitoring consists of him hoping the problem gets worse, so he can study it for his own purposes. Finally, in 2850, you can wait no longer. You undertake a second infiltration of Dol Guldur. This one is not a simple reconnaissance. It is a desperate plunge into the heart of the enemy's stronghold. The darkness is absolute. The fortress teems with orcs and worse things, things that have no name. In the deepest pits of the dungeons, where the air is thick with despair and the very stones weep, you find him. A dwarf, broken and mad with torment. It is Thrall in the Second, the lost king of Durin's folk. In a final moment of lucidity before he dies, he pushes something into your hand. A map of the lonely mountain and a peculiar key. More importantly, he confirms your deepest, most dreadful suspicion. The necromancer is no mere sorcerer, no upstart Nazgul. The master of this place is Sauron. The puzzle pieces click into place with sickening finality. This isn't a new threat. It's the old one. The one you were sent here to fight. He has been playing a long, patient game of misdirection, using a pseudonym to build his strength, while the wise were busy looking the other way. The confirmation is a cold weight in your gut. You have escaped the fortress with your life, the dwarf king's last legacy, and the most terrible piece of intelligence the Third Age has yet known. Your freelance consulting gig is over. You are now the lead operative in a world war that has already begun. The lore coder, Gandalf's discovery in the dungeons of Dol Guldur, was the single most important intelligence breakthrough of the age. It ripped the mask off the necromancer and revealed the face of Sauron, forcing an end to the centuries of inaction and debate. This confirmation lit a fire under the White Council, leading directly to the assault that would drive Sauron from his fortress. More critically, it shaped Gandalf's grand strategy. Knowing Sauron was in the north, Gandalf realized the immense strategic threat of the dragon smog at Erebor. The entire quest of the Lonely Mountain was not a whimsical adventure for treasure. It was a desperate, pre-emptive military strike, orchestrated by Gandalf to remove a powerful piece from the chessboard before Sauron could use it. What he found in that pit shaped the fate of the entire war to come. You have your confirmation. Sauron is back. You also have a map and key to a mountain full of gold, currently occupied by a catastrophic fire, breathing liability named Smog. Your strategic objective is clear. You must eliminate the dragon before Sauron can turn it into a northern army. A frontal assault is impossible. You need a subtle solution. You need a burglar. This is not a job for a wizard, whose very presence screams power. It is not a job for a dwarf, whose subtlety is measured in sledgehammers. You need someone small, quiet, and utterly beneath the notice of the Great Eye. Your mind turns back to your long-term, unorthodox investment. Your mind turns to the Shire. By a chance meeting, you encounter Thorin Oakenshield, the grim and ambitious heir to the lost dwarven kingdom of Erebor. It is the kind of chance that a master manipulator with centuries of practice can arrange. He is consumed by dreams of vengeance and treasure. You see his ambition as a useful engine for your own geopolitical goals. You have your weapon, a company of 14 very determined, if somewhat short-sighted, dwarves. Now you just need your delivery system. You need Bilbo Baggins. Picture the scene. A comfortable hole in the ground, smelling of baked bread, old wood, and contentment. This is Bag End. Its proprietor, Bilbo Baggins, is the epitome of respectable hobbitry. He enjoys his meals, his armchair, and his peace and quiet. Your arrival on his doorstep is the first tremor of an earthquake. You are a disruptive force, a memory of the strange. Adventurous took blood he has spent his life trying to suppress. You unnerve him. Then you compound the felony by scratching a subtle mark on his beautiful green door, a sign that reads, more or less, burglar for hire. Inquire within for dangerous journey. Payment uncertain. The ensuing party is a masterpiece of calculated chaos. 13 dwarves descend upon Bag End like a conquering army, eating all the food, drinking all the ale, and filling the comfortable silence with loud songs of lost gold and dragon fire. Bilbo is horrified. He is panicked. He is a creature of handkerchiefs and routine, suddenly besieged by grim-faced warriors. This is not a negotiation. It is a psychological ambush. You are the ringmaster, coolly smoking your pipe in the corner as the chaos you have unleashed systematically dismantles Bilbo's comfortable reality. You are not asking him to join. You are creating a situation where the idea of staying home becomes almost as stressful as the idea of leaving. It is a high-pressure sales pitch for a suicide mission, and you have no intention of taking no for an answer. You present the map. You lay out the quest. You strategically omit the part about this being a critical strike against the Dark Lord and frame it purely as a treasure hunt. You assign Bilbo the role of burglar, a job title he has no qualifications for and no desire to hold. When he faints from sheer anxiety, it is merely a temporary setback. You have seen the Tookish spark in him. You are gambling the fate of the North on the idea that a terrified, respectable hobbit has more courage in him than he knows. It is the ultimate expression of your core philosophy, a high-stakes bet on the power of the small and the overlooked. The lore coda, this act of recruitment, this deliberate and manipulative intrusion into one hobbit's quiet life, was the single most important decision of the Third Age. Gandalf himself did not know the full extent of its importance at the time. He was focused solely on the dragon. But by pushing Bilbo out the door, Gandalf placed the one person who could bear the ring into the one place where it could be found. Without Bilbo on this journey, the One Ring would have been claimed by Gollum until an agent of Sauron inevitably found it. The entire War of the Ring, the Fellowship, and the ultimate destruction of Sauron hinged on this one moment of inspired, coercive meddling. Gandalf's greatest move was not a spell of fire, but a nudge out the door. You have sent your burglar and his 14-man security detail on their way. Now you must attend to a more dreadful task. You must attend a meeting. The White Council convenes, a gathering of the most powerful beings in Middle-earth. The air in the chamber at Rivendell is cool, still, and heavy with the weight of unspoken history. This is not a council of allies. It is a board meeting of deeply dysfunctional executives, each with their own agenda, their own ancient grievances, and their own interpretation of the company's mission statement. At the head of the table sits Saruman the White, the chairman. He is cloaked in dignity, his voice calm and resonant, the very model of a wise leader. But his wisdom has curdled into arrogance. He looks at you not as a colleague, but as a subordinate, a volatile field agent who needs to be managed. Beside him are Elrond, the master of this house, his face etched with the weary pessimism of one who has seen too many ages end in sorrow, and Galadriel, the Lady of Elwirion. Her gaze is the most unnerving. She sees more than the others. She knows you should have been given the chair. Her silence is a constant, quiet judgment upon Saruman's leadership. You make your report. You are direct. You are blunt. You lay out the unvarnished truth you risked your life to obtain. The necromancer of Dol Guldur is Sauron. The evidence is irrefutable. The fortress is a nexus of growing power. The enemy is regrouping. You argue, with all the force you can muster, for an immediate and overwhelming assault. You have a window of opportunity, a chance to strike a decisive blow before the enemy can fully re-establish himself. You are pleading for action. What you receive is a masterclass in bureaucratic stonewalling. Saruman listens with a patient, condescending smile. When you are finished, he gently chides your haste. He leans on his credentials as the foremost expert on the rings of power. He delivers a lecture, not a counterargument. He explains that the One Ring, the source of Sauron's ultimate power, was lost long ago. It rolled down the river Anduin, he assures the council, and is now buried in the silt of the sea. His tone is final. It is the voice of an expert stating an incontrovertible fact. Without his master ring, Saruman argues, Sauron can never regain his full might. He is a diminished threat, a problem to be watched, not attacked. He tables your motion. He counsels patience. The frustration is a physical thing, a hot spike of anger you must suppress. You are a frontline operative, bringing actionable intelligence about an existential threat, and the chairman of the board has just told you to stand down based on an academic theory. You see the truth in that moment. Saruman is not making a strategic error. He is lying. He is deliberately obstructing the mission. He wants Sauron to continue his work. He wants the One Ring to feel its master's call and reveal itself, hoping to claim it for his own. He is playing a different game, using the White Council as a cover for his own treasonous ambition. But you cannot prove it. You are overruled. The Law Coda. This meeting was a catastrophe disguised as prudence. Saruman's deliberate obstructionism bought Sauron the one thing he needed most: time. The delay allowed Sauron to finalize his plans, abandon Dol Guldur at his leisure, and return to Mordor not in a rout, but as a calculated relocation. This moment shattered any remaining illusion of unity within the White Council and set Saruman's feet firmly on the path of betrayal. More importantly, it forced Gandalf's hand, with the official channels hopelessly compromised by internal politics. His unsanctioned, high-risk gambit with a hobbit and a company of dwarves was no longer just a clever side operation. It was now the only hope the Free Peoples had left. The quest to Erebor is a success. The dragon is dead, the dwarves have their gold, and your burglar, Bilbo Baggins, returns to the Shire with a pocketful of stories and one small, secret souvenir, a plain gold ring he acquired in the dark beneath the Misty Mountains. For 60 years, the world moves on. Sauron, driven from Dol Guldur, rises again in Mordor. The shadows lengthen, and you are busy, a frantic, grey-clad firefighter trying to manage a dozen geopolitical crises at once. But in the back of your mind, a small, nagging inconsistency festers. The story of the ring. You visit Bilbo. The Shire is as it always is, peaceful, complacent, an island of tranquility in a darkening world. But Bag End is subtly wrong. The owner is not aging. Decades pass, and Bilbo remains preserved, a man stretched thin, like butter scraped over too much bread. There is a restlessness in him, a possessiveness that is out of character. The ring, he claims, is his, precious, a word choice that sends a chill down your spine. It is the same word used by the creature Gollum, from whom Bilbo claimed to have won the ring in a riddle contest. But you know that is a lie. A simple, harmless magic ring does not inspire its owner to lie to his oldest friends. You know something is deeply wrong. The breaking point comes at Bilbo's 111th birthday party. A grand affair, even by Hobbit standards. At the end of it, Bilbo uses the ring to vanish, a cheap party trick that is, in reality, a final, fond farewell to his home. He intends to leave, to wander off into the world and find peace. But he intends to take the ring with him. This you cannot allow. What follows is not a gentle conversation between old friends. It is a grueling battle of wills, a psychological war fought in the cozy confines of a hobbit hole. You are no longer a kindly wizard. You are an interventionist, forcing an addict to confront his addiction. You insist he leave the ring behind for his heir, Frodo. The demand triggers the poison. For a terrifying moment, the kind, gentle hobbit vanishes. He becomes a twisted, grasping creature, his eyes filled with a suspicious, Gollum-like fire. He snarls, clutching the ring, his mind warped by its influence. It is the final proof you need. This is no mere trinket. It is a power of profound and malevolent corruption. You unleash a sliver of your true nature, your voice deepening, your shadow filling the room, not to dominate him, but to break the spell, to show him the hideous master he is serving. The shock works. The real Bilbo surfaces, horrified and ashamed, with a final, shuddering effort of will that is almost unparalleled in the history of the world. He lets the ring drop to the floor. The Law Coda. Bilbo's voluntary relinquishment of the One Ring was an event of seismic importance. It was the first time since Isildur that a bearer had been able to give it up, however unwillingly. This singular act proved to Gandalf what he had long suspected, that hobbits possessed a unique, innate resistance to the ring's corruption. This discovery became the absolute bedrock of the desperate strategy to come. By forcing this painful inheritance, Gandalf not only saved Bilbo's soul from the ring's final degradation, but also placed the fate of Middle-earth into the hands of a race so humble. They were the only ones who might have a chance to see the quest to its end. You have the proof. After a frantic, desperate search through the dusty archives of Minas Tirith, you found the scroll of Isildur. After a terrifying test in a hobbit's hearthfire, you saw the words appear, glowing with malice on the surface of the plain gold band. There is no doubt left, no room for academic debate. The trinket Bilbo found in a cave is the One Ring, the Master Ring, the foundation of Sauron's power, and the singular object that can undo the world. You have placed this burden upon Frodo Baggins and sent him on his way, a desperate first move in a game you are already losing. Now you need help. In a moment of profound crisis, you fall back on protocol. You suppress your deep, festering suspicion and ride for Isengard. You ride to seek the counsel of the head of your order, the chairman of the council, Saruman the White. It is a journey born of desperation, a last, faint hope that the leader of the wise might have a plan, that the established hierarchy might, for once, actually function. The hope dies as you approach the Vale of Orthanc. The land is sick, the green grass is torn up, replaced with pits and slag heaps. The air smells of smoke and industry. This is not the home of a wise sage. It is the factory floor of a warlord. Saruman greets you at the foot of his black tower. He is no longer Saruman the White. He is robed in a bizarre, shimmering fabric that changes color as he moves. He calls himself Saruman of Many Collars, a title that is the first, jarring note in a symphony of betrayal. He leads you to the pinnacle of Orthanc, and you lay out the terrible truth. The ring is found. It is in the Shire. The enemy will soon know. You have come for wisdom, for a strategy. You are expecting a council of war. What you get is a job offer. Saruman listens, and a look of triumphant hunger dawns on his face. He reveals the depths of his treason. He has been using the Palantir, the seeing stone of Orthanc, and has been in communication with Mordor. But he sees Sauron not as a master, but as a rival. He scoffs at your plan to destroy the ring. He mocks your faith in elves and halflings. He lays out his new vision, Third Way. You and he, the two most powerful Istari, will join the rising power of Mordor, not as servants, but as partners. They will use Sauron's might to sweep away the old, decaying world of men and elves, and then, when the time is right, they will seize the ring and power for themselves. It is a proposal of pure, nihilistic ambition. A corporate merger with the forces of darkness. You refuse. The word is barely out of your mouth before he attacks. There is no debate, no further argument. Just a short, vicious display of power. He is the master of this tower, and you are a weary traveler caught completely off guard. The fight is brutal and brief. He takes your staff. He casts you down, and he imprisons you on the bare, wind-swept pinnacle of his tower, hundreds of feet in the air. You are left there to rot, a prisoner of the one being who should have been your greatest ally. You are left to watch as Saruman's new armies of Uruk high drill in the plains below, a testament to how long he has been planning his betrayal. The Lore Coda. Saruman's betrayal at Isengard was the final, catastrophic failure of the Istari mission. It officially shattered the White Council and turned its leader into a primary antagonist in the war. The act of imprisoning Gandalf was a profound strategic blunder, born of arrogance. While it temporarily removed a key player from the board, it also exposed Saruman's treachery to the world and established Isengard as a new, formidable front in the War of the Ring. For Gandalf, this moment was a bitter liberation. The chain of command was broken. The council was a fraud. He was now free to act on his own authority, unbound by the corrupted hierarchy that had failed so spectacularly. Your trust is broken, your staff is taken, and you are a prisoner. Your hope is gone. Then it arrives, a speck in the sky that becomes a great eagle, Gwaia the Wind Lord, a servant of your true masters, sent as a clear message. You are not forgotten. You are rescued from your prison and brought to Rivendell, just in time to reveal Saruman's treachery and assume leadership of the Broken Council. The Fellowship is formed, a desperate, last-ditch effort to carry the ring to the one place it can be unmade. Your mission is back on track, but the path is now infinitely harder. Saruman's magic blocks your path over the mountains. You are forced to choose the one place you truly did not want to go. The Mines of Moria, a black, gaping wound in the side of the mountain, the tomb of a dead dwarven kingdom. You have a deep, unspoken fear of this place, a memory from your clouded past warning you of what sleeps there. The journey through the deeps is a descent into suffocating silence and ancient dust. In the chamber of Maiar, you find the chronicle of the end, the story of the dwarves' final, doomed stand. Then come the drums, a low, rhythmic booming from the deeps. Drums, drums in the deep. The tomb is not empty. The flight through the halls of Moria is a frantic scramble, pursued by hordes of orcs. But then a greater threat appears, a presence of immense, ancient dread that makes the orcs themselves flee in terror. It emerges from the shadows, a being of living darkness wreathed in flame. It is not a monster. It is a Balrog of Morgoth, a Maiar like you, but one twisted into a demon of shadow and fire at the dawn of time. It is a relic from a forgotten war, a being of primordial power. Let's just say this is an unexpected encounter with a C-level executive from the previous, much more violent, corporate era. The Fellowship flees toward the only escape, the narrow bridge of Khazad-dûm. Here you stop. This is a threat no one else can face. This is a confrontation between equals. You plant your staff. You draw a line. This is not a battle of swords or strength. It is a clash of cosmic authority. The Balrog is a lord of flame, but you, in this final moment, assert your own identity. I am a servant of the secret fire. You declare, your voice ringing with a power no one in the Fellowship has ever heard. Wielder of the Flame of Anor, you are not just Gandalf the Grey. You are Olórin, a divine agent of the Valar, invoking the creative fire of Eru Ilvatar himself. You are claiming your authority is higher than its. You shall not pass. The words are a spell, a command, an absolute denial of access. You strike the bridge with your staff. It cracks. It shatters. The Balrog falls, but its whip lashes out in its final moment, catching you, dragging you down into the abyss with it. The Fellowship can only watch in horror as you are pulled into the darkness, a final, fading spark. The lore coder Gandalf's fall was not a defeat. It was a sacrifice of unparalleled importance. He single-handedly removed a threat that would have annihilated the Fellowship, ensuring the quest for the ring could continue. But on a deeper, metaphysical level, this was his ultimate test. He was sent as a guide, forbidden from matching power with power. But here, faced with an ancient evil that only he could stop, he chose to sacrifice himself to save the children of the world. By laying down his life, he passed the test that Saruman, in his pride and ambition, had so spectacularly failed. This death was not an end. It was a purification by fire, a final exam that would allow him to be sent back, no longer as a guide limited by rules, but as a being of direct and terrible power. You fall. The fall is not a quick end. It is a long, grinding descent into the black heart of the world, locked in a death struggle with a being of pure primordial hatred. You plunge into water, a subterranean lake so cold it extinguishes the Balrog's fire, turning it from a creature of flame into a thing of slime and monstrous strength. The battle continues in the crushing, absolute dark. Then the chase begins, up the endless stair, a forgotten secret of the dwarves, from the lowest pit to the highest peak. It is a climb that lasts for days, a vertical marathon of hate. You emerge onto the bare, wind-swept pinnacle of Xiraxigil, the Silverteen. Here, under a cold sky, the battle concludes. It is a storm of fire and lightning, a duel so violent it breaks the mountaintop itself. You fight until your own life is burning away like a candle flame in a hurricane. With the last of your strength, you smite your enemy, and its broken body is cast down from the high place to ruin the mountainside. You have won, but your body is broken. The borrowed form, the frail prison of flesh you have inhabited for millennia, gives out. You die. Your mission is over. You have fulfilled your purpose. Your spirit is released from its mortal shell, and for a moment there is nothing. Then you are sent on another journey. A journey outside of time. You are naked, stripped of thought and memory, a disembodied consciousness adrift in a void. This is not a reward. It is a debriefing with the highest possible authority. You have failed in that you died, but you have succeeded in that you sacrificed yourself for the mission. The powers that be have reviewed your performance, and they have decided your contract is not over. You are sent back. This is not a simple revival. It is a fundamental upgrade, a cosmic reboot. Your previous incarnation, Gandalf the Grey, was a guide, a prompter, limited by a set of rules designed to prevent you from directly dominating the wills of others. That version of the software has been deprecated. You are reinstalled into your body, which has been carried by Gwyr to the elven sanctuary of Elrien. There, you are clothed in white. You are now Gandalf the White. You are what Saruman was meant to be. The memories are clearer. The purpose is sharper. The power is no longer veiled. The limitations have been lifted. Let's just say you've been given a promotion, a new uniform, and root access to the system you were sent to protect. The weary, wandering pilgrim is gone. In his place stands a being of authority, purpose, and terrible power. The time for subtle guidance is over. The time for direct action has come. You were a field agent. Now you are a field commander. The lore coder. Gandalf's death and resurrection was one of the few known instances of direct divine intervention by Eru Ilúvatar in the history of the Third Age. It was not merely a second chance, it was an anointment. By passing the ultimate test of self-sacrifice, Gandalf proved himself worthy of being the Valar's true champion. His return as Gandalf the White was a monumental shift in the balance of power. He now possessed the authority and might that Saruman had squandered, making him the undisputed leader of the war against Sauron and a force capable of confronting the enemy on his own terms. The rules of engagement had changed, and he was now the West's most powerful weapon. You are back online. Your reboot is complete. After a brief reunion with the very confused Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli in Fangorn Forest, you set your new agenda. First on the list, a hostile takeover of the kingdom of Rohan. You arrive in the capital city of Edoras not as a wandering counselor, but as an instrument of judgment. The golden hall of Meduseld is dark, its tapestries thick with dust and its hearth cold. The air is heavy with whispers, paranoia, and the cloying, sycophantic voice of Greymaw Wormtongue. At the center of this web of decay sits King Theoden, a man so broken and poisoned by lies that he is little more than a withered husk on a throne. This is Saruman's work, a masterpiece of psychological warfare. Wormtongue, his agent, has spent years whispering despair into the king's ear, draining his will, aging him prematurely, and paralyzing his kingdom. You are not here to offer advice. You are here to perform an exorcism. The confrontation is swift and absolute. You are no longer Gandalf the Grey, who would have been denied entry. You are Gandalf the White, and you walk into the hall with an authority that cannot be questioned. When Wormtongue tries his venom on you, you laugh. When the king's guards try to intervene, you disarm them with a word. You are not asking for permission. You stride to the throne, and you speak to Theoden, your voice cutting through the layers of poison like a lightning strike. This is not gentle therapy. It is a forced, high-stakes deprogramming. You force the king to his feet, to walk out of his shadowy hall and into the sun. The light itself is a weapon. As it strikes his face, the grey pallor of Saruman's influence recedes, and the true king of Rohan, strong and tall, emerges from the wreck. The spell is broken. Your first act as the White Rider is to restore a king and, by extension, his entire kingdom. Your second act is to give Wormtongue a choice: ride to war with the king he betrayed, or get out. He is cast out, crawling back to his master. With the king's mind healed, you immediately pivot to your next role: military commander. You lay out the grim strategic reality. Saruman's army of 10,000 Uruk high is coming. The only option is to ride to the fortress of Helm's Deep. It is a desperate gamble, but it is the only one. While Theoden musters his army and rides for the fortress, you undertake an even more critical task. You ride out alone, a white flash on the plains, on a desperate search for Eomer and his scattered riders, the very soldiers Wormtongue had exiled. You are not just giving orders. You are executing the most critical part of the plan yourself. a frantic race against time to bring the cavalry to the field before the cause is lost. The Law Coda. The restoration of the Iodin was the turning point in the War of the Ring. It was the first definitive act of Gandalf the White, demonstrating that he was no longer a mere guide, but a power capable of directly undoing Saruman's evil. By healing the king and rallying the Rohirrim, Gandalf did more than just win a single battle. He saved an entire kingdom from collapse and secured the allegiance of the greatest cavalry force in Middle-earth, an army that would prove absolutely essential to the ultimate victory before the gates of Minas Tirith. This was the moment Saruman's carefully laid plans began to unravel completely, undone by the return of the wizard he thought he had eliminated. The war has reached its endgame. The battle for Minas Tirith is won, but the victory is a hollow one. Sauron's legions are endless, and you cannot win a war of attrition. The only hope lies with two small hobbits, somewhere deep in the enemy's land, on a mission that is, by any rational measure, impossible. Your final, desperate strategy is a grand deception, a suicidal feint. You and Aragorn will lead the last remnants of the army of the West to the Black Gate of Mordor, a deliberate provocation to draw the eye of Sauron, to empty his land of its armies, and give the Ringbearer one last, desperate chance in the shadows. You march into a nightmare landscape. The desolation of the Morannon is the effluent of a continent-sized industrial forge. The ground is ash and slag, the air is a choking fume, and the sky is a permanent, sickly brown. Before you stands the Black Gate, a wall of iron and rock that is not a fortification, but a statement of absolute, soul-crushing power. You arrange your small, pathetic army and you wait. The gate opens, but not for an army. A single rider emerges, a tall figure clad in black, mounted on a monstrous, horse-like creature. This is the mouth of Sauron. He is not a ringwraith, he is a living man. A black-ment Menrine who sold his soul to the Dark Lord centuries ago, and has risen to become his chief emissary. He has no name but his title. He is a hollow vessel for his master's will. He is not here to negotiate. He is here to break you. His voice is full of ancient, sneering contempt. He mocks your small army. He laughs at your presumption. Then he produces his evidence. He holds up Samwise Gamgee's sword, an elven cloak fastened with a familiar brooch, and finally, the ultimate proof of your failure, a small coat of gleaming mithril rings, Frodo's coat. The mouth of Sauron informs you that your spy has been captured. He describes the torment that awaits the prisoner. He paints a picture of absolute, hopeless defeat. Then he delivers his master's terms. Unconditional surrender. The armies of the West will disband. The lands west of the Anduin will be vassals of Mordor, ruled by a governor residing in Isengard. You are to crawl away and live out your lives in servitude. This is the moment of ultimate despair. The proof seems irrefutable. The gambit has failed. The Ringbearer is taken. The war is lost. Every captain in your army is paralyzed by grief and horror. But you look at the evidence, you look at the sneering mouthpiece, and you see the flaw in the logic. Sauron would never give up the ring if he had it. The fact that he is negotiating at all, even in this cruel fashion, means the ring is not yet in his grasp. The hope is not dead. It is a sliver of light in an ocean of darkness, but it is there. You are not here to negotiate. You are here to put on a show. You ride forward. You take the tokens from his hand. Your voice is cold iron. We did not come to treat with Sauron, faithless and accursed. You declare. You tell him his terms are not accepted. You tell him to be gone, for you have come to his land to demand its king's surrender. It is an act of pure, undiluted defiance. A refusal to bow, a refusal to break. It is the final move in your psychological war. The Lore Coda, Gandalf's rejection of the mouth of Sauron, was the final, critical piece of the plan. By showing no despair and delivering a thunderous, contemptuous refusal, he cemented Sauron's attention completely on the army before the Black Gate. The Dark Lord, enraged by this insolence, was blinded to the true threat. He could not conceive that this suicidal gesture was a feint. His entire will, the full power of his malevolent gaze, was fixed upon the captains of the West. leaving the slopes of Mount Doom completely unguarded by his mind. This act of pure defiance, in the face of what seemed to be total defeat, was the curtain that shielded the ring-bearer in his final, desperate steps to the fire. The negotiation is over. The enemy pours from the gate. You prepare for the end. Then the world holds its breath. The tower of Barad-dûr crumbles. The ground heaves. Sauron is gone. The ring is unmade. Your war is over. Your first act in this new, quiet world is to call the eagles and fly to the erupting slopes of Mount Doom to pull two very small, very battered hobbits from the fire. Your final rescue mission. After that comes the strange, anticlimactic business of victory. There are feasts. There are celebrations. On the field of Cormoran, the heroes are hailed and songs are sung. But you feel a profound sense of detachment. You are the project manager at the launch party, watching everyone else celebrate, while your mind is already on decommissioning the servers and filing the final report. You stand beside Aragorn at his coronation in Minas Tirith. You take the crown of Gondor from the keeper and you place it upon the king's head. This is a profoundly symbolic act. Your mission was to prepare the world for the age of men. In this moment, you are formally handing over the keys. The world is his problem now. You are officially redundant. The journey home is a long, slow unwinding, a victory lap that feels more like a funeral procession. You ride with the elves, with Elrond and Galadriel, and have your last conversations. You are saying goodbye to the ancient powers of the world. Then you travel with the hobbits, your most successful and unlikely investment. As you near the borders of the Shire, you leave them. Your work, you feel, is done. You are wrong. When the hobbits finally arrive home, they find it is not the peaceful sanctuary they left. It is a grim, industrialized slum run by a petty tyrant named Sharky. And Sharky is Saruman, your disgraced predecessor, carrying out one last, pathetic act of spite. When the hobbits call for your help, you refuse. This is your final, and most important, lesson. You have spent millennia inspiring others, guiding them, and, when necessary, fighting for them. But the ultimate goal of a teacher is to make himself obsolete. You have taught them everything they need to know about courage, leadership, and resistance. This is their home, their fight. You will not intervene. You sit back and watch as 4 travel-hardened hobbits, using the skills you helped them forge, raise a rebellion and liberate their own country. It is a perfect, small-scale echo of the war they just helped to win. It is their final exam, and they pass with flying colors. The lore coda, Gandalf's refusal to intervene in the scoring of the Shire, was the ultimate fulfillment of his mission. It was the final, brilliant demonstration of his philosophy in contrast to Saruman's. Saruman, even in his diminished state, sought to dominate and control. Gandalf, by stepping back, empowered. He forced the hobbits to become their own saviors, ensuring the lessons of their quest were not just memories, but ingrained, practical skills. He did not just help win the war. He cultivated a generation of heroes who could now defend their own peace. It was the most profound and lasting victory of all. The last loose ends are tied. The world of men has begun, with a good king on the throne and its heroes returned to their homes. For 2 more years you linger, an anachronism in an age you helped create. You are a whisper of a forgotten time, a being whose purpose has been fulfilled. The exhaustion of 3,000 years in a frail human body has settled deep into your bones. It is time to go home. You ride to the Grey Havens, Mithlond, where your journey began. The air here is different now. It smells of the sea, but also of memory of an ending. Círdan the shipwright, his beard now impossibly long, is there to meet you. He was the first to recognize your true nature, and he is the last to see you off. The circle is closing. A white ship waits at the dock, its sails catching a wind that does not feel like it comes from the mortal world. You are not traveling alone. Elrond and Galadriel, the last of the great elven lords and ladies, are leaving too. Their age is over. Their magic is fading. And with them are Bilbo and Frodo Baggins. They are granted this final grace, not because they are immortal, but because they are irreparably broken. The wounds they received from the ring and the quest can only be healed in the undying lands of Valinor. For them, this journey is a mercy, a passage to a hospice for the soul. For you, it is simply the end of your deployment. You stand on the deck, a tall, grey figure now cloaked in white, and look back at the shores of Middle-earth for the last time. You see the faces of the friends you are leaving behind, the hobbits who were your greatest success. There is no grand speech, no final words of wisdom. Your work is done. The ship pulls away from the dock, leaving the grey shores of the mortal world behind, and sails west, following the straight road that leads out of the circles of the world. The long, agonizing, thankless assignment is finally over. You can finally clock out. The sea air is clean. It washes away the grime and the weariness of millennia. The mission was a success, not because you defeated the Dark Lord with a grand spell, but because you recognized that the power to do so lay in the courage of a creature most would have overlooked. You wagered the fate of the world on the resilience of a hobbit. It was the only bet that could have won. The lore coder, Gandalf's departure, marked the true end of the Third Age. His mission as Olórin was one of the most successful in the history of the Valar's interventions. He did not fall to pride like Saruman, nor did he despair. He fulfilled his mandate perfectly, not by wielding his own power to dominate, but by kindling the flames of courage in others. His legacy was not a kingdom or a monument, but a world saved, and a people empowered to defend their own future. He came to Middle-earth as a quiet whisper of guidance, and left having orchestrated a symphony of defiance that echoed into the New Age, leaving behind a world that, because of his work, no longer needed him.